Hey, guys. Welcome back to the Pop Podcast. I am your host, Erin Groves, and it is another Monday, and we are already in February, which just seems so crazy to me. I can't believe we're already in February, and I feel like I say that every single solo episode, but I just feel like January flew by, and honestly, January was definitely a learning month for me. I feel like it was one of those months where I started off the new year sick, and then things just kind of went downhill from there. Things with the podcast have been going great. And that is why I wanted to do a solo episode, because there is so many new listeners here. And I thought I need to reintroduce myself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day, out of your week, and out of your month to listen and tune into every episode. It sounds very cliche, but I am always so incredibly grateful for every single person that listens and every single person that tunes in and allows me to keep chasing my passion and chasing the thing that I actually really truly love doing. So, thank you all for that. And I wanted to start off, I was just going to recap January a little bit and then we will get into today's episode. But just to reintroduce myself, so I'm Erin Groves. Was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I have been a Buckeye my whole life, as all of you have seen on my Instagram. If not, at Pop with Erin, go follow. I follow sports. I love sports, always have. And it's kind of funny because my parents, my whole life, and my sister would always tell me, you need to be a sports broadcaster. You need to go. You love sports. You're clearly a talker. I'm very loud, which is just, added bonus here. But they're like, you just need to go and be a sports broadcaster. And I obviously never followed that. ESPN, if you're listening, let me know. I'm all ears. But I just never went after that. I'm in sales by day, so I sell HR software. And then I do this podcast at nights on the weekends. And then I also occasionally teach yoga. So kind of everywhere, which I know I need to start narrowing down my life, but that is who I am. I've been living in Dallas, Texas for going on 4 years now, which is crazy. I feel A, old, which I know I'm not old, and B, that time literally flies by. I feel as if I just moved here, just got my first apartment, and now here I am almost 4 years later and have just some of the best friends. And I do truly love the city. I always say there's probably one more city in my future before I settle down with my life, but if I stayed here forever, I wouldn't be mad about it. So that is a little bit about me. Reintroduce myself for all of those new listening. I am single. I know that's a question, especially in Dallas, that you get asked often. This year, I told myself I would open myself up to the possibility of being in a relationship, something very challenging for me, considering the fact that I am probably overly hyper independent, which I'm also working on internally. So that is a little snippet on me. And January just it wasn't my month. I started off sick for the first 2 weeks. Everything with the podcast went great. So I am super grateful for that. I felt like the intentions and the mindset that I had going in really put into effect. And it's kind of funny because I know my word for 2022, for some of you that this is your first episode, I chose the word abundance for 2022. I do words instead of goals. It's easier for me to just have a word to follow and something that I'm actively working on 365 days and that I carry obviously on beyond that. But my word was abundance. And it is kind of crazy how in 31 days, now it's a little bit more by the time this episode launches, how much can change. And it just kind of opens your eyes and opens your heart to how much truly can change in 12 months. I know everyone says that, but when I look back on myself 12 months ago, there's a part of me that doesn't even recognize half of her. There's a part of me that's like, it's just crazy when you really look back, especially in your 20s. I feel like there's so much growth every single year that we're all going through. And I know for me personally. So I'm just super grateful to be where I am and to have this podcast. Every single guest that I interview has taught me something about myself and about the direction I go. And I'm just super, super grateful for that. And that kind of leads right into the topic or so for this week's episode. So it's funny that this is launching right after Katie's episode. So I know everyone loved Katie's episode last week. And right after that episode, her and I actually sat down. Conversation came about because throughout January, I had a bunch of guests. I was doing a lot of interviews and I was getting really good feedback. And I posted something on my story the other day that was talking about how compliments, sometimes it's really hard to take compliments. And I never really understood why. And I remember I called Mike, who I call my mentor, and I was like, I just don't take compliments very well. And I think it's because our whole lives we're told like, you're doing great, you're doing this, you always get all of this positive feedback. And I just feel as a culture we sugarcoat things, and I think we do it because we're trying to avoid hurting someone's feelings or avoid conflict. But I've always been the person that if you're my friend and you're in my close group of friends and I disagree with something, or I'm like, hey, this was really good, but like maybe you could try this, like constructive feedback, I'm always big on that. And I think just being, raised and this time we're just so always giving positive encouragement. So for me, when I would get a compliment, I didn't really take it very well because I don't know why I just defaulted to I thought this person was lying, or we're taught to be humble and have humility. And so every time someone would give me a compliment, I would deflect. I would change the subject, or I'd just be like, thanks, and get nervous. And I never really understood that until I started journaling it and doing a lot of internal discussions with myself and just sitting with myself. But it was funny because back to the moral of the story, I can go on a tangent for forever. But back to the point of the story was I was talking with Katie, and she has built such an amazing brand for herself and just such an amazing business. And it's people like her that have inspired me to keep going after the things that I have. And that's why I have all the different guests that I have on, because that's my intention for you all, to give you the resources and to give you different topics and different ideas and different people. We're all different. Everything resonates with every single one of us differently. So I just started talking to her, and afterwards she sat down and she was like, Erin, you're a really good interviewer. And I was just like, thanks, and was quick to kind of dismiss it. And as I started talking to her, and I was telling her like, hey, you're not the first person that said that, but I don't know why I kind of thought people were lying or just telling me what I wanted to hear because I am passionate about this and this is something that I really want to go after. And she was like, no, 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 like you're really good. And we started talking, and Mike's laughing on the other line right now about this, or when he's listening to this. But I remember telling her, like, I almost feel that I can't be good at it because I don't work that hard at it. And she was like, oh my gosh, Erin, that's exactly how I felt about the blog. Money just started flowing to me. Things came so easily to me when I started doing it. And it really got me thinking that there's no way her and I are the only people that feel this way. And we started talking about it. And I was like, I need to do an episode on this because I'm sure there's many of you out there listening to this that resonate with this. And it kind of goes back to the quote that's been on the podcast before by Mike of like, hard work is overrated. And I never really understood exactly what he was talking about. And for me personally, I think if you work hard at something, there's good things to come. And now that I'm on this side of it with the podcast, I really see what he's referring to. And when you're passionate about something and you're also good at it and it's something that comes naturally to you, you're really working towards alignment. And Katie and I started talking about this topic because she's like, I feel like I'm finally in alignment. I feel like the thing that I'm most passionate about, personal finance and money, is what I'm doing. And that is why money and abundance has really followed me. And that's why I feel like I'm fulfilled in my day job. And it was so funny because I remember sitting there when she was saying this, like, you just put words to everything I've been feeling. And the reason that I felt like I couldn't take compliments and everything in between. So it was just kind of crazy. And that's why I wanted to do a podcast episode on this because I chose the word abundance because I had a scarcity mindset or lack when it came to money, lack in my day job, lack in relationships. And so I started to notice that about myself and I compensated for how hard I worked. And so when I show up at this podcast and I'm doing something that I'm passionate about and people are telling me like, "Hey, this is actually something that you're talented at." I felt that that couldn't be true. Why have I been working so hard at other things in my life and I'm not seeing the same results or I'm not getting that same feedback, but yet I show up at the podcast. I do put in work. It's not like I don't put in work at all, but it just comes more naturally to me. And Katie and I had this conversation, and she's like, when you find that thing that just flows to you naturally, we all have that. And through this podcast and through the resources that I'm giving you all, that's really my intention. I want you all to find that one thing that aligns you, that one thing that brings together what you're passionate about and what you're really good at. And the sky is the limit. And so I thought I would just touch on that a little bit today because I feel that there's a lot to unpack. And I know we hear the term alignment and we think, oh, that's very woo woo or oh, that's very spiritual. But it's definitely something that throughout January very much came to my attention and through the conversations that I was having. And it was mostly at the podcast too. It was every single person that was on the podcast. And I just couldn't believe that there had been other people that felt that same way because my whole life I've worked my butt off towards things. And it's not like I wasn't financially rewarded or I haven't had success, but it just doesn't feel the same. And once I got on this podcast and started interviewing people, I had that light bulb moment of this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I wanted to share this story with all of you because it's easy to get caught up in guilt or to say, oh, I'm not worthy of this, or oh my gosh, you're giving me a compliment. I need to negate that and push people away or ignore or, not validate what they're saying when in reality, it's like, hey, thank you for the compliment. Digest that and then move on and not think too much into it. But I think as a society, just as a culture, we're taught to be humble and we're taught to have humility, which I think is so important. And every great leader, I'm not saying, go out there and be cocky or go out there and be egotistical, but I just thought it was super interesting because after talking with Katie and a few other people, it really, again, I just had that light bulb moment of this is where I'm supposed to be and this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And my whole life, I had an expectation that I was supposed to be doing this, or I was supposed to be, being the top rep in sales, or I was supposed to be doing all of these things. And I still had that one feeling of there's something else. I love my day job, but there's still a feeling that I wasn't serving to my full potential, or I wasn't giving towards other people like I knew I was being called to do. And this platform has really just provided that for me. And it's every single guest that I come across and their stories that are just so intriguing. And it's funny because when I really think back to who I was as a kid and who I've been my whole life, I was always that girl that would just ask people, like, what did you do for a living? How did you get to where you are? And some people are like, oh, you're just nosy. And it was never coming from a place of nosy. It was coming from a genuine place of curiosity. I find it so interesting how so many people have success in so many different areas. And I think it's so cool because, again, I think as a culture, we have this straight line to success. You have to do X, Y, Z, work your way up the corporate world, and that's how you're going to be successful. And I know success is defined in a bunch of different ways, but when you really break it down, there's so many different people and every single one of you listening has a different talent and that's what makes you unique. And if you know me, I'm big on authenticity. I'm the girl that doesn't care if she's not wearing makeup on the podcast. It's just not true to who I am, but that conversation with Katie, I just knew I needed to do a solo episode. And I know this is a short episode, but I just wanted to share that with all of you because if this is something that you're going through right now in your life you either feel as if you're called to be doing more, really explore that. Go internal, start journaling, and start trying things that you enjoy doing, thoroughly enjoy doing, whether they make you money or not. That's exactly how I found this podcast. And it's funny that if I wasn't encouraged by my friends at the time, I probably wouldn't have been here. And I truly believe that people are brought into your life for a reason, season, reason, or lifetime. But I just thought that conversation with Katie was so great. And it takes time to get to that place. And it definitely takes a lot of hard work. So I don't want to negate hard work. I just think, and I'm going to bring Mike on and we're going to have this conversation. I really truly think there's something to following that calling inside of you. And you hear this all the time. We just need to execute on it more and really go after that thing that you want to do. And whether that's start writing a blog or selling art or creating something on Etsy. I think there's so many different avenues that every single person can take, and there's no right way and there's no wrong way. And as someone who thinks very black and white and I lead with logic and I lead with my head, I'm starting to come to that realization as I get older that there is a gray area and it's up to you to take the information on every single one of my episodes and then leave what you don't want. And it's not personal. I mean, share of mean comments and it doesn't stop me because there's something inside of me that knows that I'm on the right journey and knows that I'm on the right path. And I have no idea where this podcast or where my life is going to take me. But I just want to encourage each and all of you to continue finding that thing that really calls to you. And I hope my podcast is a gateway for that. I hope you listen to episodes and these people light you on fire, or maybe you listen and you're like, oh my gosh, Erin, I did not like that guest or I did not like that episode. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I know I listen to some podcast and nothing resonates with me. And I listen to another episode and I'm raving about it and sending it to all my friends. It's just part of life. So I really just wanted to share that story to each and all of you about really finding alignment in your life. And there's not an age, there's not a timeline. It could take you 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I just feel very passionate about it. And I'm glad that Katie had those same feelings because for me, it's hard sometimes to put feelings into words. And when she started saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel. I feel as if I'm not grateful for the opportunities that I've had because I found something that just comes natural to me. And it's all a mindset. And I know I talk all the time about change your mindset, change your mind. And it's just so true. I mean, for me now, I'm taking compliments. Thank you for doing that instead of deflecting them or getting awkward. And it's not egotistical or narcissistic to say that. People are giving you a compliment for a reason. So I just want to encourage you if you're someone like me. I know I had a flood amount of DMs being like, that is so me. I do the exact same thing. So I just thought it was super interesting and something that I wanted to share with all of you. So that is my TED Talk for this week. I wanted to do a short and sweet episode for all of you. And if you listen to this episode and it's something that resonates with you, I would love for you to DM me and share more. I love interacting with all of you. I'm always commenting back if you're commenting on my Instagram. It's at Pop with Erin. If you have not followed it already, I'm also on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, trying to get that up more. So all good things to come on the podcast. As always, thank you all for tuning in. And the last little bit, your girl is going to Vegas for her very first time. So if you all have any Vegas recommendations, please, please, please let me know. I would love to hear them. I'm going with two of my girlfriends and I'm super excited. I've never been. So I feel too old to go. Just kidding. I'm not too old, but 25, about to be 26 and heading to Vegas for my first time. So I'm super excited for that. My next solo episode will be after Vegas, which I'm sure will be a hilarious episode for each and every one of you listening to this. So as always, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Rate, review, subscribe, send me who you want to hear on the podcast, and we will be back next week with a heartfelt episode with a very heartfelt guest I am super excited for. So thank you all for tuning in. And as always, what am I grateful for? This week, I'm grateful for my friends. I celebrated one of my best friend's birthdays. Shout out Hope. And I just feel extremely grateful to have a crew around me that supports me, allows me to have my alone time, allows me to need space or have space rather when I need it. So I am super grateful for my friends, and every day I'm grateful for all of you who tune in and listen. So thank you all. Have a fabulous week and a fabulous Monday, and you'll hear from me next Monday. Thank you.